Today, we will be speaking on how wealthy am I? One of the world's greatest driving forces is the desire for wealth. Money can buy you medicine, but not health. Money can buy you a house, but not a home. Money can buy you books, but not wisdom. We find that human beings experience want in three identifiable areas, that is physical, material, and spiritual wants. The saying, health is wealth, implies that someone in good health can be said to have physical wealth. When a person has a lot of money and material possessions, we describe him or her as being materially wealthy. In the same way, when someone finds contentment and fulfillment, they can be said to possess spiritual wealth. But unfortunately, we tend to equate material wealth with happiness. From the time that we were young, we have been indirectly taught that having a lot of money should bring some kind of contentment and comfort. A material lifestyle may bring you momentary happiness every time you get something new, but you will always be left wanting more. You will never feel truly satisfied. On the other hand, spiritual wealth is something much more significant. It is the root to pure bliss. But how can a person cultivate a sense of spiritual wealth? Today, from Team Hingori Sutras, we have with us Roshini Dhir, Shravan Talwar, and Sumanth Bajaj. Our team would attempt to help us understand the true meaning of wealth. A very warm welcome to you. Aapka bahut bahut swagat hai.
Thank you, Anjali.
Thanks, Anjali.
Thanks, Anjali.
Yeah. So, Sumanth, may I start with you? I have a question here for you. What are your views on the topic of wealth accumulation and money?
Thanks, Anjali. I've been fascinated, Anjali, by this topic of wealth and material possessions and money, etc. And I've done a fair amount of study. I've studied a few books by Adi Shankaracharya and Ashtavakra Samhita and all that. But the greatest teaching and understanding of wealth that I got was from my tour guide. Surprisingly, I had gone to Ranthambore for a tiger safari. And my tour guide, when we were in the jungle, he said, Sir, aapko pata hai ki sher apni sari zindagi kya karta hai? So I said, nahi, bataiye. I said, I thought shikar karta hai, kuch karta hoga. He says, no, a tiger basically spends its entire life marking its territory and trying to increase the size of its territory. So all day, basically, it goes and urinates tree under tree under tree after every 10, 20, 50 feet to increase its territory. And then it wards off any competitors, other animals that come in, it kills them, shoos them away, and judges the success of its life based on how large and how much bigger it has been able to extend its territory. Actually, this really struck me because I thought, a human being, myself, I'm no different to that tiger. All of us, all human beings, we also judge our success and our performance in life and our state of sort of well-being based on how many square feet we own. So a tiger judges its success based on its territory in the jungle, and we, a human living in the city of Delhi, we judge our success based on how many square feet we own, whether it's in Connaught Place or Dwarka or anywhere else. It's how large it is. And that struck me as being very, very tragic, because we humans are living our lives at the level of a very basic animal. We human beings, we've got a prefrontal cortex. We've got very evolved brains, much more evolved than animals. We can think, we can rationalize. We have a subconscious mind. We've got critical reasoning, deductive logic. We can plan for the future. We have a spiritual bent in us. But yet, all of us, we just look at how many square feet we own, for most part. And jitna square feet jada hoga, utna we think we've done a great job. And that struck me as being very sad. And I thought that was also very true because we're all living at such a primeval level, at a level of an animal. That's why we're all so unhappy, because we're always constantly trying to increase our square footage. And we succeed sometimes, we fail sometimes. it's very sort of primeval, very basic, and a little sad if you ask me.
Quite true, Sumanth. Sumanth, this brings me to a thought. I think what we really need to do is define what physical wealth really means. Could you please expand a bit on that?
So physical wealth, I think, is anything which is tangible, which is sort of in the here and now, which you can touch, feel. The phone I'm using is my physical wealth, my bank balance, any property which I own, the furniture, a house, or anything which is tangible, which I can touch, feel, enjoy, luxuriate in. That's physical wealth. And the tragedy with physical wealth is that, you enjoy it for a very, very small period of time. And then, hey presto, before you know it, hum sabka Ram Naam Satya hai ho jata hai, and that physical wealth is gone in such a flash, and then it's so meaningless. So something which is so meaningful and so important, for which we spend our entire life, morning to night, we're going to work, we're fighting this rat race, trying to accumulate more. Suddenly it's gone and it's meaningless to us. And that really is my understanding of what physical wealth is.
Right. This sort of brings me to another question, Roshini, if I may ask you. Yeah. Isn't it important to focus on money during the initial phase of our lives, where one needs to grow, raise a family, and be responsible? Even according to our scriptures, sannyas starts after retirement. Not everyone is a Buddha, right?
Anjali, that is the pragmatic approach. It makes absolute sense to secure one's future when one has age and health on their side. So there's no disputing that many of us subscribe to that point of view. However, I don't agree that we have to wait for sannyas to follow practices to accrue spiritual wealth. This is not an either-or situation. Both can work in tandem. So we can adopt a more balanced approach to things, even in the prime of our life. For example, we have a 24-hour workday, of which we probably spend about 12 to 14 hours in commercial work. It's not that hard to take out an hour every day to do some mantra vidya or some acts of kindness. In fact, many acts of selfless service don't even take much time. How much time would it take for you to get a slice of bread and put it on the ledge of your balcony for the birds to eat? So I would advocate a more balanced approach, and there is no need to wait for sannyas to pursue spirituality. You also made a comment, Anjali, in your question, which I think is rather interesting. You said, not everyone can be Buddha. Now, I want to address that part of your question in the context of this conversation we are having today. What is Buddha? Buddha represents two things for me. It's the renunciation of material wealth, emotional attachment, and the eventual renunciation of all forms of self-identification. Now, you can call it renunciation, we call it detachment or vairagya. Which brings me to something my spiritual mentor once said. Gurudev said, Grehast may be vairagya hai, which means you can live the life of a householder and still practice detachment. So you can do everything, fulfill your familial responsibilities, tend to your children, live a good life, work for a living, own a good car. You can do all of it as long as it's done within the framework of detachment. And that is critical. And that is what the Buddha represents and symbolizes. It is a state of, a state of being devoid of attachment. And I believe that is a state all of us need to aspire for. So we all need to aspire to reach the level that Buddha had reached.
So true. This reminds me of a quote by Albert Einstein. Not everything that can be measured counts, and not everything that counts can be measured. Yeah. So then, Shravan, what is spiritual wealth and how does one accumulate this?
Anjali, spiritual wealth is a bouquet of things. like a nutritious meal, you want to focus on a few different things. The first building block of spiritual wealth is aura. Aura is the electromagnetic field which encompasses all life forms, and the thicker the aura, the more spiritually powerful the person. As we see in art and places of worship, most saints and deities are presented with a halo around their heads to signify their aura. Conceptually, aura is the fuel which gives your spirit body when you die the gati or speed to cross obstacles and to reach higher dimensions. The second building block of spiritual wealth is your self-impression. Your self-impression is based on a few things. Your gunamics, your level of gyan and non-doership. And gyan basically means realization of divinity within oneself. Your level of bhakti. Bhakti basically means worshipping the divine in yourself and in others. And let me give an analogy to explain aura and your self-impression better. Your self-impression at time of death is the destination which you enter into Google Maps as to where you want to go. Your aura is the amount of petrol in your petrol tank, which determines how far you get. I'd like to give a simple example to bring the concept of aura and self-impression to life. Contrast a saint and a jinn. Both have strong auras. A saint, gunamics, will be sattvic, but a jinn's is largely tamasic. Some other elements of spiritual wealth also include positive karmic bank balances yet to be fructified in this lifetime, siddhis or special powers, etc. Now, how should one think about accumulating and managing spiritual wealth? The magic of spiritual wealth is that it endures across lifetimes, unlike material wealth. And handle your spiritual wealth like Warren Buffett handles his finances. Invest wisely, earn lots, spend little. Spiritual wealth is built through seva plus mantra vidya plus improving your gunamics. This is a simple formula, but hard to execute. So number one, seva. Seva can be done through many elements, including giving food, greening environments, educating people, etc. The book Karma Sutra by Hingori provides a terrific practical reference to applying this in the real world. Number two, mantra vidya. Mantras are sound vibrations which encapsulate energy and enhance spiritual power by helping to raise your kundalini and consequently ability to hold more aura. Number three, gunamics. Each individual has a gunamix of tamas, rajas, and sattva. By self-reflection, effort, and control of one's mind, emotions, and interpersonal dealings, one can enhance sattvic qualities. By increasing our sattvic gunas, we again increase our ability to hold aura. So, to summarize, two key elements of spiritual wealth are aura and self-reflection. And the formula to accumulate spiritual wealth is seva plus mantra vidya plus improving your gunamics.
Shravan, you mentioned the book Karma Sutra being a guide to understanding your karmic patterns. Funny because Sumanth, I remember we having a conversation once, and you did tell me as to how. May I request you to share your experience as to how you found it difficult to do small acts of kindness initially, and you started to keep a log book when you read the book Karma Sutra as your guide. So could you share that experience with the audience, please?
It's a very embarrassing experience, Anjali, but I'm happy to share it because luckily it's in the past now. But I was with my guru once, and I was asked to do something good. I think we were somewhere in Gurgaon or somewhere outside a hotel, and I was asked to go and give an ice cream to the watchman. And I was so embarrassed to even go and talk to this watchman because he looked really like a real bichara. It was 10 o'clock at night. So to suddenly go out of nowhere to a stranger and strike a conversation with him and say, "Ye lo bhaiya, ye ice cream aapke liye hai," I couldn't do it. I was so embarrassed and it just felt so awkward because I'd never done something like this before. So I went and I think gave him 100 rupees from my pocket and I said, "Ye aapke liye hai," or something like that. And and he looked at me as if I was some weirdo, you know. So that was my. One had always been told, yeah, do good deeds from my grandparents and parents, but one had actually never really done them. And you know, Karma Sutra, the book by Hingori, just hit me like lightning. And because I realized how many negative deeds I was committing on a daily basis. You know, from the time we wake up in the morning, we sleep on a bed which is made out of cotton. We've God knows how many cotton plants have been killed. We wake up and then we go to the bathroom. We waste water there. You know, we change our clothes and we go have breakfast. I normally used to love having pork sausages and a 3 egg cheese omelette with toast. And these are all very normal things for me. And I began to maintain this logbook, which sort of Karma Sutra explains us very categorically how to maintain this logbook of positive deeds and negative deeds and all of that. And it enlists the different kind of karmas that happen. So I began to maintain this logbook, and meri to khadiya khadi ho gayi, seriously, because it was so many negative deeds, negative deeds. I was just consuming, killing. I was extracting favors from everybody, trying to manipulate people around me always into seeing that if I had met some powerful person or some rich person, I would think, yaar, mera is bande se main kya fayda nikalwa sakta hu? How can I benefit from this person? And so I saw my karmic scores at the end of, I think, week 2, and I thought, if I die today, I am going to go to Patal Lok, which is the lowest form of lok, because I've just led such a selfish, manipulative, horrible existence. Actually, I wouldn't call it any of those. I wouldn't berate myself so much. It was ignorance. It was my ignorance, actually. And then Karma Sutra, makes it so easy to enlist the positive karmic deeds that one does. And, as Roshni was also explaining, one can just, give a slice of bread and put it on one's balcony for the squirrels and the pigeons that come. One can do small things, and I began doing them. Simple thing, like I would go meet my grandmother who lives all alone. I'd go to a house, cheer her up and say, hi, Nanima, how are you doing? Tell her some jokes, cheer her up, talk to my watchman. I'd never spoken to my watchman, but I'd actually surround when I cross, instead of just smiling at him, I would say, Namaste, bhaiya, kaise ho? Kya ho raha hai? Aaj badi garmi lag rahi hai. Haan, meko bhi pata hai. Just, and with a small, that little tete-a-tete conversation, you see that watchman smiling because somebody had actually humanized that guy. Otherwise, I would not even think of him as a human being. So these small deeds actually helped to improve my karmic score, and I think my karmic wealth then started to increase bit by bit by bit. But it was a very long and a very tough journey. It's very tough to initially just change how we live our life and start focus on mitigating and reducing our negative karmas and increasing our positive karmas. It takes a while, but if the intent is there, if the motivation is there, I think if a lallu like me can do it, I think anybody can do it.
Sumanth, actually, that's just what you put across. The gradual shift that happened in accumulating spiritual wealth by keeping this log did take some time, and I'm sure there must have been a to and fro that happened, some frustration, because it is very easy and justifiable to work on the accumulation of physical wealth, right? But why is working on earning spiritual wealth so rare, so uncommon, or difficult?
It's like, Anjali, the pursuit of spiritual wealth is the road less traveled. It's a very lonely road where you will be mocked, you will be jibed, people will make fun of you. I cannot even tell you, I live in South Delhi, I can't even tell you the amount of times where my friends and acquaintances, even my family members, have told me, yaar, what are you doing? What kind of an idiot are you? तू सड़क पे खड़े होके तू ये काम कर रहा है, पैसे वेस्ट कर रहा है, वो कर रहा है. यार तू तेरा तो ये जब ये जवानी है तेरे अंदर, पैसे कमा, do this, do that, travel the world. You've got enough money, go to America, go to Japan, buy a nice watch, and it'll help you, it'll raise your social status. And it's very, so to walk on this uncommon path is very lonely. It requires a lot of grit, and it's just it was I can really tell you, it was a very tough journey, because from the time when we are young, I remember my grandfather would tell me, Sumanth, बड़े होके मेरा नाम रोशन करेगा, हमारी फैमिली का नाम तू रोशन करेगा, you will you must make our family's name and fame, and you must spread it. From whatever you inherit, you must expand and increase on that. And so that's what we're told, that, that you must come first in class, you must come first so you can go to Harvard Business School, get a good MBA, so you can get a job at Goldman Sachs to earn $1 million a year. This is the dream of, I think, 99% of humanity, Anjali. And because this is so ingrained into us, now suddenly to go on a completely different tangent and to say, okay, I'm going to not focus so much on my physical wealth. I'm going to focus on my spiritual wealth, because physical wealth is temporary. Physical wealth is fleeting. It'll be gone in no time. And, it's not going to last. And then to suddenly start switching your sort of mind space, your actions, your value systems, your approach, your motivations. What are your daily motivations? To shift one's motivations is Teutonic. It's huge. It's so monumental, and it's there are a lot of snakes in that snakes and ladders game. There are a lot of snakes, so you'll keep coming down. You'll think that sometimes, yeah, maybe I am getting lost. Maybe I am being a loser. Maybe I should be like all my friends and value and love and crave the things that all my friends want, because that's the herd, now. The herd mentality is such a powerful force. So to leave the herd and to go alone on this lonely, dark road sometimes, all alone, is very tough. It's not
how
natural.
did you manage to walk walk down that road?
I think I won the lottery, Anjali. I think I really lucked out. Touch wood, I really won the lottery, because I met my Siddh Guru, and that gave me, and he gave me the motivation. He held my hand through this very lonely journey when nobody else held my hand. Not family, not friends, not society, not even myself. He held my hand. He, taught me and reinforced it again and again and again. There were times when I would have doubts. He would again push me. Hey, beta, you're doing the right thing, and he would explain to me why I was doing the right thing. He explained to me again and again, like a child, why
So
it was so,
So what you're saying is, through your guru, you understood the difference between the form and the formless, what is tangible and intangible. This actually brings me to this thought. During the festive season, Dhanteras, we all buy a Lakshmi coin on Dhanteras, right? And we worship that image of Lakshmi and are aware of that material that we bought, which is silver and it's expensive. But what eludes most of us are the attributes or the qualities of Lakshmi, and actually even silver for that matter. It's because we can't really see those attributes or those qualities, and it is through your guru that you've been able to recognize those intangible qualities.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And I just feel so incredibly lucky that the Siddh Guru came in and who gave me the push and the nudge and the motivation that I needed, because I was lost and I was miserable, and it was just a terrible life.
Okay, hold on to that thought, Sumanth. I'll come back to you. From here, I'd want to ask Roshini, but doesn't wealth make it easy to pursue spirituality? If one is constantly worried about where the next meal is coming from, or how can one make time for spiritual growth, how are we going to be able to pursue spirituality?
Anjali, I think material wealth makes it easy to pursue anything you want in life. There's no disputing that. But I don't think you need a lot of material wealth to walk the spiritual path. In fact, many of the great sages and the saints of even Gurudev, came from very, very humble backgrounds. So this common perception that, money makes the mayor go in spiritualism, I think is a bit misplaced. Money is definitely a facilitator, but it is not the be all and end all. In fact, you need very little money to do a lot of good work in this line. Let me just give you an example to illustrate this point. Gurudev had a disciple who had come on very hard times. And one day he was sitting with Gurudev, and Gurudev said, go and feed 25 beings. And this gentleman only had 10 rupees in his pocket, and he knew that They were not sufficient to feed the number of people Gurudev had asked him to feed. So he was in a bit of a conundrum, and he was standing under the shade of a tree. And while he was standing there, he noticed an anthill. And he noticed a lot of ants swarming around this anthill, and he had an epiphany. He immediately went, to a sweetmeat shop. He bought one laddu for 5 rupees, and he distributed pieces of it near the tree trunk, and not 25, I think close to 100 ants ate that. So no matter what your circumstance, you need to innovate. You need to find ways of doing selfless service. And like Sumanth mentioned, not every act of kindness requires money. He spent time with his grandmother, spoke to the watchman. There's so many ways, a gazillion ways of doing selfless service without needing any money. For example, if you have a skill set, you can train somebody in it without charging a fee. When you joke and uplift somebody's mood, that is an act of selfless service. So unfortunately, we narrow the scope of selfless service and assume it's only money that will facilitate that act. And that is not true at all. And, coming to the part about worry, well, it's natural to worry. I think we all are creatures of habit and creatures of circumstance. And because our future is uncertain and we are afflicted by planets, we go through these periods of extreme negativity and extreme worry, and that is fine. We all will go through it at some point or the other. But irrespective of what your circumstance, I think it is very important that you focus on spiritual pursuits, be it mantra vidya, be it selfless service. It may not be easy on certain days, but you need to find the will to do it. Because, the interesting thing is, the equation is that if you are spiritually strong, you will be able to tide through these negative periods also far more easily. Because you have a greater understanding and acceptance of what is happening to you. You understand how karmas work. You understand you will be afflicted by planets. So it makes life much easier to deal with. And so my recommendation is that please invest time in spiritual pursuits. It will be worth your while. And don't worry so much about worry.
It's quite true, Roshni. But yes, but money does help, right, Shravan? Do rich people have a greater karmic, can they accumulate greater karmic points? And do they evolve spiritually much more than poor people? Because given that they can do more with their wealth, should sort of benefit them, right?
Anjali, theoretically, if you're richer, then you can do more good. I think practically the answer is much more nuanced. While we often think of wealth as money, there are 16 types of wealth. Types of wealth include health, longevity of life, happiness, bliss, beauty, intelligence. Spiritually oriented types of wealth are vidya or knowledge, morality, higher goals, higher thinking, and meditative states. A simple example helps explain the trade-offs of different types of wealth. A person who is financially rich but chronically ill might not be able to generate much spiritual benefit with it at all. We rarely get a chance to step back and reflect on what the situation of others are beyond packaged Facebook and Instagram narratives. Big picture, a subset of people are rich, but when you add other elements of wealth, the numbers trend down significantly. Very few people have the entire package. And if you add spiritually relevant types of wealth like knowledge of vidya, morality, you are left with a minuscule fraction of people. And that's not the mental model we normally all have. Many of the greatest saints and spiritual practitioners have not been rich. Jesus was a carpenter. Buddha was a renunciate ex-prince. Gurudev is a live example from our own time. He served hundreds of thousands of people on a nominal government salary. Now, riches bring their own challenges. In the New Testament, Christ said, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. So I don't think we should underestimate the challenge of being rich and spiritual. In the Katha Upanishad, Lord Yamraj tells Nachiket, worldly wealth is transient, and through the transient, no one can attain the eternal. Now, this should give us food for thought. At times, richness and the pursuit of riches can be a handicap or trap. And why is that so? Firstly, our minds focus on what we view to be our treasures, and our focus on earthly treasures, which are fleeting, distracts us from the accumulation of spiritual treasures, which actually endure. Secondly, to serve others or do mantra vidya requires dedication of time. At times, most of us get consumed by the pursuit of success and do not devote that time to take spiritual advantage of a good fortune. So while being rich, in many ways, people struggle to leverage that benefit of richness in ways which can accumulate far greater wealth for them on many other dimensions. Also important to realize, wealth can be accumulated through good deeds or bad deeds. If accumulated through bad deeds, then that wealth creates its own set of karmic issues. So wealthy people do not necessarily earn more karmic points because of the financial bank balances. However, if they invest their wealth to systematically benefit others, they will obviously enjoy the karmic benefits. And I'd like to leave a parting thought on this question. Imagine a billionaire who has donated $1 million on one side and a beggar who has shared half his food each day for a year with another. Now, who would you call more spiritually benefited from this exercise?
Or wealthier, for that matter. Yeah, so true. So true. You know, this reminds me of a quote by one of the richest men in the world and also one of the greatest philanthropists, Warren Buffett, where he says that real wealth is giving back more than what you have taken. You know? So it's so very true. But here, I have another question for you. Yeah. You know, we've been discussing about accumulating wealth and how to increase the wealth. Can you throw some light on how we lose wealth or how wealth diminishes? You know, with some of our attributes or our habits, is how does wealth take a dive downwards?
Anjali, is this question for me?
Yeah.
You know, well, there are multiple ways you can lose your spiritual wealth. The easiest and the most obvious one is consumption of all your good fortune. So the trick is, if I had to quote Warren Buffett all over again, manages spiritual wealth like Warren Buffett manages his finances, which is earn lots, invest wisely, and spend little.
True, so true. You know, so yeah, because one of the ways where how we lose our wealth is when we sort of get absorbed by the pleasures of the senses that wealth provides us. You know, yeah. So yes, that's so true. So Roshini, you know, you were mentioning about seva earlier. So if I am wealthy and I do enough seva and leave behind a financial trust in my name where my descendants continue to do the same, wouldn't that be an ideal scenario for accumulating wealth?
Of course, it's ideal, Anjali. You know, it allows continuity of your work even after you're gone. And it allows a lot more people to participate in that work, which is also a form of seva. So clearly it is ideal. However, not all of us have the resources to create institutions, you know, before we are gone. So I think it's important to focus on doing as much good work as you can. And if you're fortunate enough and have the resources, then please create institutions that will carry forward your work. Of course, that's utopian, that's ideal. But I think the focus should be on doing as much seva as you can in whatever form or shape.
Yeah. But Roshni, very often we help our family members, our friends, but soon, you know, they establish a sense of entitlement. And our expectation of acknowledgement and gratitude creates a sense of dissatisfaction, especially when you don't get that. Yeah. So then what do you have to say about that?
Anjali, it's very natural. I think we all want validation. We all want acknowledgement. So I think that's a natural human failing, a natural human reaction. But I do think we need to shift our perspective. I think with spiritual wisdom comes the understanding that seva is not about reciprocity. It is about selfless action and selfless thought. And if you are doing an act of kindness merely because you want validation or glorification, then I think you need to course correct. And that is not the right approach. So while I understand that, we have failings, I do believe seva should be done for the sake of seva itself and not for recognition or things like that. So I do think one needs to alter one's approach and become a little detached from the action of seva. I think that is very important. Most of us do it and are still very attached to the act. So a degree of detachment will make it easier when people don't meet your perceived, expectations.
Right. So, yeah. So there's another aspect, Roshni. What are your views on Gupt Dan?
Anjali, my spiritual mentor always says your left hand should not know what your right hand has done where seva is concerned. And Hingori ji actually touched upon this subject in his talk on anonymity. I think it was about 2 weeks back. It was a wonderful talk, and I hope everyone in the audience heard it. And I don't remember his exact words, so I'm going to paraphrase. But he had said that if you tom-tom about the good work that you do and you're doing with the intent of wanting, glorification in return, then you are claiming the reward of that action in this lifetime as well. So I don't think that is very strategic from the point of view of accumulating enough spiritual wealth to take into the afterlife. So again, course correct, you should do seva for the sake of doing seva and not for personal glorification or putting your name on a deed. I don't think that's right. Right.
Right. How would I know how much of spiritual wealth I have come with, Roshni, and how much I leave with? Is it possible to access a spiritual passbook?
Anjali, that's a really tough question, so I'm going to attempt to answer it the best way I can. I think I'll try to answer it with an analogy. The way I see it is that we come with a fistful of energy. And this life affords us an opportunity. It's like an investment opportunity where we can expand that fistful and multiply it and hopefully leave this earthly realm when we die far richer than when we came into it. Unfortunately, most of us have a very myopic view of this subject. We think we have one life to live. Why not live it large? Live it king size. And on account of that kind of approach, we end up expending our spiritual wealth instead of accruing it. Now, there are a zillion ways of expending the wealth. Shravan touched upon them. There's one point that I would like to raise here, which I think is very relevant. A lot of great sages, including Gurudev, including Sai Baba of Shirdi, have all said luxury is an expense in spiritualism. So when you enjoy something, when you are very involved in sense gratification, then all of that leads to an expense where your spiritual wealth is concerned, and it takes a lot of effort for you to accrue that wealth. Now you can accrue it through seva, mantra vidya, and changing your gunas, like Shravan mentioned. You can do all of that, but I think it would be wise for all of us to understand the arithmetic of energy and start making really wise choices so that we have a greater credit in our spiritual passbook when we leave than when we came into the world.
That's beautifully put, Roshni. Roshni, you just spoke about the afterlife. Shravan, if we were to believe that we move to lokas after we die based on our guna mix, if we have a lot of say in us and also a little bit of sattva, I assume we would move to Atal. So, this sounds like a really cool place. Why would one aspire to be in a higher lok, Shravan? What does it take to get to a higher lok?
So firstly, I think, sometimes you're better off not getting what we think might be cool. Atal Lok is below Earth, which is Bhulok. And Atal Lok is the first of the 7 lower loks or tals, which are partial light and lower consciousness. Now, fear and lust supposedly are the governing emotions of these loks. Only those who overcome fear and lust can escape Atal Lok. And Atal Lok inhabitants include beings like individuals who have an I, me, and myself complex, or people with several extramarital affairs, etc. Each lok represents a range of consciousness or perceived reality, and different loks reflect different qualities for the like-minded beings or birds of a feather who inhabit them. The lower loks or tals are supposedly inhabited by nagas or snakes, and upper ones by divine beings. So it's quite obvious where one should try to aspire to go. It is believed that the first of the higher loks, like Swarg, has immense pleasure and beauty, and people stay there till they exhaust their good karma accumulated on their time on earth. When one does even better, one gets catapulted to the Mahar Lok, which is the land of the wise and balanced, and so on and so forth for the 7 higher loks. Now the Puranas say that the loks come in pairs. So we should probably aspire for the paired higher lok. So now what do we need to do to get to a higher lok? The framework is believed to be the loka one gets to is a function of gunas plus karmas plus self-realization. Self-reflection. And our self-reflective form is based on our attitudes and habits. And it takes multiple births and great effort to improve these attitude and habits so that a self-reflective form is something which is improved. Earth or Bhulok provides an extraordinary and rare opportunity to move to a higher lok by providing individuals a chance to improve themselves. Once on earth, one's trend of thinking is based on the loka one has come to earth from. So the opportunity is to go against one's nature and qualify for better. Now the tools on earth are Purshat, the obstacles are destiny and sanskars, and time is short, 60, 80 years. It's even more challenging when one realizes that it's much easier to slide down than swing against the tide. So it's really important to reflect, realize, and correct one's behaviors and habits and attitude patterns. Those who have practiced humility, dispassion, overcome their sensory temptations, evolve and qualify for higher loks. Those who practice seva rise geometrically. So to summarize, take advantage of your rare human birth and think of your life beyond this lifetime. Secondly, remember your future lok is a function of karma plus guna plus self-image. So work on them. And thirdly, leverage the force multiplier effect of seva.
This sounds really good, but Sumanth, are you aware, or do you know if there is any proof that spiritual wealth is rewarded? Isn't everything in the here and now?
That's what we would want to believe, Anjali. We want to believe that, it's all in the here and the now, and kal ka kisne dekha hai? I mean, common, generic understanding for you and me, mere mortals, is that we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. We could get a stroke and be dead, right? Or we could live for another 50 years, God knows. So I've, when I've discussed this concept of focusing one's life on the pursuit of spiritual wealth vis-a-vis physical wealth, hundreds of people have said, "Okay, yaar, you've got this one precious human birth, enjoy it. You don't know when you'll be born again. You don't know what the hell is going to happen. So, make the most of this life. Enjoy, wine, women, and song. That's the way to go. Earn money, travel in business class, do X, do Y, and make the most of this life. Because who knows what's going to happen? We don't know there's no hard and fast proof that people have died and then they've come back. Yes, there are people like Anita Murjani, etc., who've explained their post-death experiences and stuff. but yet that information is, very limited. But when people say that, आगे का किसने किसी को पता नहीं है, we don't know that what's going to happen. I have this analogy that I've used, and it's really struck a chord with me and with a lot of people who I've spoken to about it, which is that, of this boy called Prince George. He is Prince William and Kate Middleton's son. He was born, Anjali, on the 22nd of July, 2013, the first male heir and destined to be the future King of England, to inherit Buckingham Palace and the Kohinoor Diamond. At the same time, on the 22nd of July 2013, at about 4 p.m., time of his birth, another child was born in an African slum in Rwanda. His mother had HIV and his father had been killed in some sort of civil war. So these two children, these two spirits are born same day, same time, but look at the opposing circumstances in which they've been born. What could possibly be the reason? After all, you don't have to believe in God, but there is some sort of laws of nature, some sort of higher power which is governing why that one child is born in Buckingham Palace to have the world at his feet, and one child in an African slum where he may not even make it after the first 2 weeks. He might die of jaundice or dehydration. What could possibly be the reason why ये जो दो बच्चे आए हैं, इनकी किस्मत इतनी विपरीत, इतनी opposite है? कुछ तो कारण होगा. So, that struck me, and that gives me some sort of confidence that this concept of accumulating after death dollars, of accumulating spiritual wealth, of doing good karmic deeds, improving our guna mix, doing mantra vidya, all this stuff actually will give us the brownie points which we all would hope for, right? So if people say, what evidence is there that you're going to die and you'll go into Patal Lok or Bhu Lok or Guru Lok? What's the evidence there? What's the proof? I said, this is the proof. Look at the two opportunities that these two children have been born in. If this is not concrete enough for you, then nice knowing you. Enjoy your life. You're not my target audience. But if you can understand this basic common sense, that should put in a lot of fear inside of you, Anjali. Should put in a lot of realization that I don't want to be born in that African slum. I don't want to spend my life and enjoying it on material pleasures, on pleasing my senses and just focusing on my physical wealth, enjoying my good luck, burn my good luck and die poor. I want to die rich. I want to die karmically rich. I don't want to be born in Africa. I only want to be born in Buckingham Palace. Who doesn't? But to be born in Buckingham Palace, that good luck has to be earned. So people say, oh, that guy is so lucky. I said, no, that guy is not, Prince George is not lucky. Mukesh Ambani's kids are not lucky. They're not lucky kids. They must have done a whole lot of good deeds in their past life to be born into that situation where they'll have enough food, shelter, clothing, and not have to worry about it. That good luck which they've been born into, which they've inherited, it's not a lottery that they've got. It's their good luck which they have earned. That good luck has to be earned.
Very true. Such a fabulous conversation today. So much to learn, so much to do, so much to understand, and so much to reflect.
And Anjali, I just wanted to add one more thing. You spoke about financial trusts and how a lot of people, myself included, I don't think I'll ever have enough money to leave a financial trust behind after I die. So I doubt that the good deeds will accrue to my spirit even after I die. I think whatever money I have will probably get spent in my medical care and there won't be much left. But what if you plant a tree? What if you plant a people tree outside your house? That tree will probably outlive you, probably live for 100 years. That tree can be your trust. No? That tree will cost you 200 rupees to plant. The oxygen it will give, the home to the cheeties, chipkalis, cockroaches, the people will come and sleep underneath it. That's my trust.
Fabulous. Fabulously said, Sumanth. So true. So true. Like I said, so much to learn, so much to do, so much to reflect upon, so much to analyze about how wealthy am I. I have a question that I'd like all three of you to answer. We may have discussed the importance of spiritual wealth, but I do understand it is difficult to do as well. So what advice would you give to our audience on how to practically focus on increasing their spiritual wealth? So, Sumanth, okay, if you begin with you.
Anjali, so you're asking for practical advice on how to increase our spiritual wealth?
Yeah, on how to practically focus on increasing our spiritual wealth.
You know, there is this herd mentality which is so strong for people today. If we can get rid of this fear of judgment, I think that will really help us. The fear of judgment is such a strong human fear which plagues 99% of us. It's so strong. So if you can work on that fear, understand it, maybe speak to an accomplished, evolved person about this fear of judgment. Because if to pursue spiritual wealth, you might have to walk a slightly uncommon path, and there will be times when you will be judged, people will make fun of you, you yourself will question what you're doing. But if you can rise above that and feel and have enough grit and confidence inside of you that even if people make fun of me, if I'm standing on the road and distributing dal roti to some people outside my house, or I live in a building, what will my neighbors think if I'm making puri aloo and distributing it to my neighbor's watchman? What will they think of me? They'll think I'm this weirdo outcast. So if that fear of judgment can be controlled, mitigated, I think it will take you a long way.
Roshini, what are your views?
Anjali, I'm going to touch upon the subject that I touched upon initially, which is detachment and vairagya. And I think it is very important, to practice that in your pursuit of material wealth and spiritual wealth. In fact, Gurudev once said something that stayed with me. He said, "Jo tumhare dimag mein aaya, aur jisko tumne apna liya, wo tumhara karm ban gaya hai." So not only do you have to practice non-doership and detachment from actions, you have to do it from your thought. Otherwise, you will be expending a lot of your cosmic currency. So I come back to the subject of what the Buddha symbolizes. I think we all have to aspire to do good work, to do all that destiny ordains for us to do, but do it with complete detachment, whether we live in a forest or a concrete jungle. So that is my takeaway from this conversation.
And Shravan, what would you like to advise the audience?
I have 4 thoughts to share. Number 1, trust and wholeheartedly act on the advice and examples of the great beings whose names ring across time. Buddha, Christ, Muhammad have all outlined the importance of and the many common practices to build spiritual wealth. Number 2, I think echoing what Sumanth said, have the courage to think for yourself. We invariably reflect what we see commonly and what society shows us on average. But average is never exceptional. Number 3, be long-term greedy, act decisively. Mortal wealth and lives last 60 to 80 years. Most Indians have grown up believing in the Atma being everlasting. However, we've never, tied the dots. Hence, act in your own Atmas and your own long-term interests. Number 4, be lucky. I was personally struggling with the issue of spiritual wealth being important, but did not feel I had the time given my business endeavors. And I struggled with this for a long time. And finally, when I spoke to my guru on this, he said that not everyone has the luck to pursue spiritual wealth. Hearing this, I think a lightning bolt struck for me and a bulb went off in my head. And I decided to try to be lucky. So my wish is I hope many of us here today choose to be lucky.
Yeah, fabulously said. This is like the ultimate takeaway from this session today is to live wealthy, not rich. Because there is a currency that you earn in this life that can be taken along when you leave this earth, which sort of ensures that you have a richer afterlife. And who knows, you would be laughing all the way to the karmic bank. Yeah. So we have a couple of questions from the audience. Yeah. And if I may, there's a question from Anu who says that Since physical wealth has the power to feed hungry stomachs, can pursuing it be a wrong thing? As per religion, we always revered and prayed to the wealth goddess Lakshmi. Is it not because of the problem-solving abilities of money that we worshipped her? Is so? If I mean, any of you, if you could take that question on.
I could attempt it, Anjali. Like I said previously, undoubtedly, money facilitates a lot of things. And like you mentioned in your introduction, when we worship Lakshmi, we're not worshiping her so that we become rich and wealthy and affluent. We're worshiping her so that we can imbibe the quality of barakat that she represents, which is the ability to share our good fortune with many more, which comes down and percolates to the concept of seva. Yes, money, makes life so much easier. But my spiritual mentor, Gurudev, did not have a lot of money. And look at the spiritual institution he has created that is helping millions and millions of people. So if you look at wealth as a facilitator, great. The lack of it as a limitation, then that is a problem. I think if you are focused on selfless service, all you need is the intent, and you will find ways to do it. So that is my point of view.
And Anjali, if I may add my understanding of wealth and work, because we all work, we all have jobs, and we want to earn money, right? And who doesn't want to have a nice car or go on a nice holiday with our loved ones? But I think one has to be cognizant of the good luck that we've all had. We've all had parents who've educated us. We've got a good job or a business or whatever. That luck that we've had, and that luck which has enabled us to earn some money. So enjoy some of that good luck. There's nothing wrong with having a bit of fun, because we, as you said, we live in the Grihastha ashram, but share some of that good luck. I think Islam has a beautiful, prophecy of, giving away 5% of percent of your profits. I think that's a great thing. So enjoy your life, do whatever you want to do, but share some of the good luck now. But I am not trying to sound bitchy or judgmental here, but I've been appalled at the amount of people who I've come across who, despite being very rich, have their fists totally closed when it comes to sharing, because they all say, look, I have to save to buy a bigger house, I have to buy a new car, my daughter has to get married, my kids have to go study in America, da, 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 da. I'm broke. When I'm 75, I'll start then. I can't do it right now. So that's what's really scary.
No, Shravan, this brings me to this question about enjoying life. And, and there are times when you have people saying that you need to sort of renunciate and give up everything, and buying a big car, you feel guilty about buying a big car, the proportion of the wealth that you have and what you spend, and it just creates a whole mess in the head. How would you address that? I mean, about enjoyment. I mean, is enjoyment an expenditure, or if I do have the money, how do I use that money without spending more of my karmic wealth or whatever, go into a debt rather than to a credit? Yeah.
So I think, this can be answered at a couple of levels. So I think, maybe the first level to just look at it is, if you have a great amount of wealth, obviously, whether you buy a really small car, a really big car is frankly immaterial to your wealth. So having a big car on its own is no real issue. I think the challenge comes is if your identity of who you are as a being, is linked to that car. And now your model is that, I am so and so fantastic being because I have the Mercedes S-Class or something equivalent. And then your social standing, your whole model of who you self-reflect on, if it's based on that, then I think it's a problem. And obviously it's very, very challenging for a lot of rich people to let go of that. And that's why you see so few incredibly rich people actually have the courage and ability to be like both Azim Premji and Warren Buffett, both of whom don't drive, really big cars. And everybody else feels really, really pressurized to, pony up that big car because they're so embarrassed that maybe, people might think poorly of them. Will they say they've lost their money? It takes courage and the realization that your identity is not linked to that car.
So true. No, true. There's another question by Nivya here saying that Buddha left his household life, and his kingship to pursue spiritual life. Is that advisable?
I'm happy to take a crack at this one. I think, many of the spiritual texts talk about, what's the more challenging path. And I think even if you look at the Katha Upanishad, even there, it's very explicitly discussed that the advice Yamraj gives to Nachiket is, it's a much harder road to live in the world, because when you live outside the world, the number of problems you face are very limited. So if you're a person who's renounced the world, you have far fewer specific challenges to deal with. You might have a bit of a challenge in your food. You might have 2, 3, 5, 7, relatively limited set of discrete challenges. But to live in the world, you have to deal with a whole host of many more challenges. And Yamaraj advised Nachiket that, look, every challenge which you have to deal with while being a part of the world helps you grow, both spiritually and in your ability to help others. So I think to that extent, renouncing the world might or might not be the path for everybody, and it's not necessarily a more advisable path.
Anjali, may I just supplement Shravan's very articulate answer? I think renunciation is a state of mind. And that entails detachment and all of that. People choose different paths based on their circumstances and their needs. But we need to understand that renunciation and detachment is a state of mind. And you can renounce everything, like Gurudev said, while staying within the parameters of the grihastha. So I hope that answers the question. Yeah.
So true. There is this one last question here. It's quite a long one. Samir says that why do we want to talk about a debit and credit account, and then on the other hand, we talk about selfless deeds? It's a dichotomy, isn't it? What about Kriya Yoga mentioned by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, which says human evolution to be one with the supreme consciousness takes 10 lakh years, while with Kriya Yoga, it takes 3 years. And with a guru's blessing, it takes less than a minute. And then we have destiny. So how do we simplify things for people? Else doesn't it just put ordinary people into a circle? The more variables we put in front of people, like lokas, gunamics, etc., while we think we are educating people, but are not building up, but aren't we building up a confusion, is what you're saying? Why is it difficult to distill everything into smaller bites for people to do it practically?
Anjali, I have an interesting take on this. I don't know how accurate this is, or if it even answers the question in totality. But initially, when I began to do the positive karmic deeds of, food and pigeons, crows, etc., I remember I did a langar once outside AIIMS Hospital in Delhi. And I took a selfie of myself in my clothes, holding this kadchi of rasse wale aloo. And all the people around me, beggars and lepers and really the sick people outside AIIMS Hospital. And I sent it to my guru. And I would even send some of these pictures to some of my family members and on a few WhatsApp groups. Ke dekho maine kya kiya hai. So I think, is that a bad thing? No, I don't think that's a bad thing, because of my level of evolution at that time was, at a very basic primeval level. And that's how we all start. If you feel good about doing something good at kindergarten, that's absolutely okay. And that's and that's a great start. But slowly, what happens is, once you continue to do the good things again and again, you do one langar, second langar, third langar. By the fourth or fifth langar, or by the fourth or fifth time you've spoken to your driver or your guard or anybody done something good, it becomes hardwired into your psyche. Do you think about, oh, I've committed this action, I have walked to my bathroom door and urinated and pressed the flush. Do you think about it? And I've just committed this action, which is part of my digestive system, and what all is happening? No, you don't think about it, right? In the same way, when you make a conscious commitment to living a life where spiritual wealth accumulation is important to you, when you start doing these positive karmic deeds, it just happens in a very blah sort of way. You don't think about it. You don't think of the repercussions, the cause, the effect, the who will be grateful, who will be ungrateful. It just happens in a very without thinking.
Yeah, so like what you're saying is there are stages. So you start off with feeling a slight sense of contentment, doing the good deeds, a slight bit of happiness, and a little bit of
arrogance also.
Arrogance, till it reaches a point of what we call is non-doership, till you reach that point where you do not take ownership of the act. So Sameer, why do we want to talk about this? Is because we're all at different levels of evolution. So it's like taking one step at a time and climbing up the ladder till you reach a point where actually nothing matters and nothing is for real, right?
Because you realize that had I not conducted or hosted that langar outside AIIMS hospital for lunch that day, would those people have gone hungry? No, those people would not have gone hungry, Anjali. They all had enough money, or they had some jugaad or some resources to go somewhere to feed their stomachs.
Or it was in their destiny to eat.
It was exactly. You realize this. You realize that you are actually a nobody. You're just a goddamn pawn who is just enacting one's destiny, which was to feed those people or those pigeons or those crows or that chowkidar on that specific day or time. You're actually nobody. But this takes time. Takes a lot of time.
Right. So with this, I'd like to thank the three of you. Thank you, Roshini, Sumanth, and Shravan, for taking the time, for coming in and answering these questions and helping us understand what the meaning of true wealth is. And thank you, dear audience, for being with us tonight. But before we end, I'd like to tell you this particular session was inspired by one of you from the audience. Anu, thank you very much for sending us those questions about wealth and inspiring us to do a session on this. And we are so humbled with the response that we get. Please do keep sending questions in so that we can make more and more of these sessions on topics that you'd like to hear. And Anu is so inspired by the books of Hingori that she has offered to do an online course on wealth management free of charge over a weekend for all of you from everybody from the audience. Yeah. So if you would like to attend that course on wealth management, yeah, please do send us your email IDs, and once we've the dates are fixed, we would share that with you. Thank you so much, Anu, for being so inspired to follow and do what you can, with your time and the selfless service, the path of selfless service that you have started to walk on. And thank you, dear audience. Looking forward to seeing you again on the 21st of November. Till then, Khuda Hafiz, sayonara, good night.